Graduates Conversations podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the November edition of our Ask NAATI podcast. And as usual, I have with me today the Certification Policy and Development Manager, Aurelie Sheehan. Hello, Aurelie.
Hi.
And also National Operations Manager, Michael Nemarich, as well on our panel. How are you, Michael?
Hey, very good.
Very good to have you both again today. And our questions have been coming in over the last few months. And just want to also say to all the practitioners out there or anyone who wants to ask NAATI a question, thank you for sending those questions through. And the question form is always open and ready for your questions on the NAATI website, as well as the All Graduates and the Conversations Interpreting and Translating website. So just go onto any one of those websites, click on the form and ask away. There's been many questions asked and many questions answered. So I'd like to thank NAATI and thank Aurelie and Michael again for making themselves available for our podcasts. And we are looking forward to the first one next year, which should be around March. Let me just go into it straight away. We've got quite a few questions again, but I'll try to get through them as quick as I can. Let's start with an easy one. And as usual, we'll work our way towards more challenging ones. I'm wondering, how does a practitioner show proof of their LOT language development in PD when getting accreditation? Now, this is from a Greek interpreter. And a bit of a comment there as well. I have subscribed to my language on AUSIT member forum, but it's very quiet and regularly check the AUSIT website for PD, especially in my language of Greek. I've noticed in AUSIT there are several languages that have specific, but nothing in my language. Any suggestions or tips for Greek PD? And the key question here is, what else can I use for recertification? Thank you. Aurelie, I think this one's for you.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. It is true that opportunities can vary from one language to another, depending on how rare your language might be, maybe a little bit more difficult to find opportunities for language maintenance. But look, there are also lots of options out there. And, a few examples I can suggest are, for instance, looking at becoming a member of a community, for instance, a Greek club or a Greek community group that might be available in your town. It could be as well subscribing to Greek magazines. There's a lot of resources available online, so it might be worth investigating options there, like subscribing to e-magazines, for instance. And it doesn't have to be related to the TNI industry. It could be on any topic or areas of expertise of interest to this person. A few other things that can be worth investigating are podcasts in the language, in Greek language, or even I was thinking of lots of in-country radio stations may have their own app as well, so you can just download it on your phone and listen to podcasts or even to live radio in your language. So there are lots of avenues like this which are accepted for recertification. I haven't mentioned reading books in the language as well, but that's also an option, or participating to community events like a film festival or even other types of community events. So in terms of recertification, what NAATI would ask for would be a blurb about the activity. It could be a link to the podcast. It could be a film ticket, or a receipt for a community event, those kind of things. We're quite flexible in that area. We know it can be challenging, and so we open to a variety of options.
Very good. I particularly like the one about the film ticket you were saying. So I know that in Melbourne, there's a really good Greek film festival. Anything there. My language other than English is Turkish, and I do subscribe to Turkish podcasts, particularly like in science, environment, one for art, one for news. So I've subscribed to quite a few, and I have submitted them, just screenshots or links, and NAATI's always been kind enough to accept them. So I know that it can be hard, especially in the last 2 years where we didn't have the chance to go back to the motherland. And usually, that also can be claimed. going back to, let's say, Greece or Turkey, or wherever the language is spoken, and spending, is it at least 2 weeks there, or up to 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think that's up to 2 weeks. Yeah.
Up to 2 weeks is 10 points, and then it's like more than 4 weeks is extra points, I think. So, you know, because it's been quite difficult to travel in the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of, I guess, online traveling,
Yeah.
watching a lot of documentaries, watching a lot of online film festivals as well. But I think there is quite a few things out there, like you said, books, websites,
Podcasts.
magazines, podcasts. So those can all be claimed towards recertification.
Yeah.
All right, very, very good. This one here is from an interpreter who has been practicing for a while now, and the question is like this. I'm a NAATI certified translator, one direction, and provisional certified interpreter. I'd like to sit for the certified translator in the other direction and certified interpreter as well. I graduated from RMIT with a master's degree in translation and interpreting in 2015. I've been practicing for more than 5 years now. Given those years of experience and the degree that I obtained, will I be still required to attend any training courses before applying for the tests? Thank you.
So I can answer that one. No is the short answer. Based on what's been said, it looks like they've got the experience required. If you hold a credential already, you're automatically eligible for a similar credential. For something like CI, if someone's progressing from CPI to CI, potentially they need to do chuchotage as professional development prior. But based on having a master's in translation and interpreting in this case, I would think they're fine to sit now.
Very good. So you can apply to sit your test now. I mean, they've got the experience. They've also received the training. And even though I think the training, if you haven't sat the test and passed it, the training lasts for about 3 years before it expires, and then you have to do some kind of training again. But in this case, they have their certification already, and they've got the training, so there's nothing stopping them from applying.
Not at all. And I'd follow that. The training usually stays even more than the 3 years. It's ethics and intercultural that's often the thing that needs to be refreshed. But if anyone's got a question, just send us an email and we'll be able to clarify those in specific circumstances.
Very good. Nothing stopping you, dear practitioner. Please apply. Okay, so this one's about someone who sat the CPI test and has a little bit of feedback about the test. Hi, NAATI. I was marked down on 2 things in my feedback for my CPI test. First one, my pauses were too long. At the end of the day, we are humans and not robots, and sometimes we get mind blanks or take a moment longer in our pauses. Brains can fail at the worst of times. I would rather a practitioner pause a moment longer than use filler words like Second question, or second comment. I used the wrong word, for example, shoes instead of sneakers. I don't think I omitted or changed the meaning of message into loat. I would like to hear your thoughts about this, and thank you for allowing us to ask questions.
Okay, I think I can answer that one. First, I'll start by saying it is difficult for me to answer this question without seeing the whole performance because we're taking it out of context here. So I'll try my best. First, I'd like to say that the feedback comments are there to justify the band awarded, and then not an extensive commentary. So there may have been other instances of errors which haven't been mentioned in this comment. First, in terms of, I'd like to mention a few things around test preparation and that the rubrics are actually available on our website, and also that at the moment NAATI is doing a continuous improvement program where we're looking at improving pre-test information and also test conditions. And some of it, some of the work we're doing is around making more practice materials available, and we're hoping to have that available early next year. So I hope this will also help candidates in preparing for the test. Now, coming back to the specific comments, in reference to the long pauses, I guess this was probably commented in line with the interaction management or potentially the rhetorical skills. And pauses in themselves are not an issue as such. I think it's more about how it's impacting the flow and the management of the interaction. And so here the questions that need to be asked is, how disruptive were the pauses? Were they too long that role players were prompting the interpreter to go on? Were both parties aware of why the pause was so long? So there are different factors that can be at play here and that could have triggered that comment from the examiners. So I think it's really about how the interaction has been managed and how this was disruptive to it. And not so much about, pauses shouldn't happen. It's really about the impact it has on the interaction. Now, on the second point regarding the terminology choice between shoes and sneakers, again, difficult to comment out of context. It's only an isolated example. And I'd say that it would, again, really depend on the impact this potentially minor distortion would have on the interaction. So I can't really fully comment there. I'm suspecting it's a minor distortion, but I would need to see the whole context of the performance. Perhaps it was major. So yeah, it's really about the full context here. So I hope this is helpful. I can't really comment any further on the specific performance. However, if this candidate has further questions, they can also contact us directly, and we're happy to look into that.
Very good, thank you. And good luck with the continuous improvement program as well. Looking forward to seeing the results.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Next one. This one's about agencies. Michael, this one might be for you. Back in May, I attended an online network discussion for interpreters that was organised by the AUSIT New South Wales branch. Thank you, AUSIT. Some concerns were among the interpreters. These were that some agencies were not good compared to others, and some agencies had dodgy practices. We've all heard about these dodgy practices. This got me thinking, does AUSIT on NAATI have a system of checking agencies to weed out the good from the bad? Agencies may possibly get a rating system or accredited like practitioners, and they can then display the NAATI or AUSIT logo if they pass. Maybe random audits and inspections can be conducted to see if the agency is treating their practitioners well, and feedback from practitioners without the fear or consequence of losing their job and not doing anything dodgy, and complaints about the quality of the practitioners, etc., and so on. I know it's a big ask and a big project. If the agency fails, they have a chance to fix their mistakes or areas of concerns. I think it's important for agencies to be transparent as well and keep them the same standard as practitioners. P.S. Practitioners raved about All Graduates, if not the top, as one of the top agencies. So that's good to hear. Any thoughts on this, Michael? Some kind of a system where agencies are NAATI certified and they have to go through, rigorous testing to make sure that they comply, because, interpreters are. And what about these potentially dodgy agencies?
Yeah, sure. So in short, I guess no. Our current constitution doesn't allow it. So our constitution allows us to endorse qualifications and certify practitioners, but we've got no remit to go into LSPs. It's being raised as something that we could look at. We definitely had a strategic planning day this year where we raised the possibility. We have got a lot of stuff that we want to keep doing though at the moment, so it's not a priority for us at the moment. And again, it's not part of our constitution and remit. So definitely hear what they're saying. How that works would be a pretty big project, as the person's alluded to. So definitely being thought about. Currently not possible because it's just not how we're designed, but worth consideration. I'd also comment, probably if there is dodgy practices, it's potentially not us anyway, and there's things that could be done now. Fair Work Australia Fair Work Ombudsman, local laws. If there's people being treated poorly as either sham contract or illegal work practice, that's something that should be fixed now, and not, even if we did have the ability as NAATI to register or rate LSPs, that would still be the remit of the Fair Work Ombudsman, for example.
Very good. That's a very good recommendation, I think. So if there is anything dodgy, as the practitioner says, that they think is going on, the Fair Work is there, Fair Work Victoria, and Fair Work in other states as well. And if there is, I guess, any wrongdoing there, they should be reported straight away. Okie dokie. Oh, I like this one. I have found a lot of free community education and training like webinars and podcasts for a variety of community workers. The target audience usually is for lawyers and social workers, not exactly designed for interpreters and translators. An example of free community education and training that I am currently participating in is a free 9-part monthly series on social security matters like debts, understanding mutual obligations, and the different payments. My question is there anything wrong with this, or am I wasting my time? Thank you.
I think I can answer that one.
Aurelie?
So, yeah, so look, in terms of, I guess, recertification requirements, we do consider training that is in a related field and not necessarily TNI training. So I'd say it is worth it if this person wants to expand their subject matter expertise in areas where they're thinking of interpreting. So it could definitely be worth it. So I don't think this person is wasting any time.
Not at all.
And on the contrary, working in the TNI industry is not just about having the interpreting and translating skills, but it's also having that subject matter expertise. So I think it's very valuable. Now, if this person was also inquiring about other types of PDs and what else could be looked at from a TNI perspective, I guess there's a lot of there that is available either through OSIT or LSPs like All Graduates, but others as well. And with COVID, we've had many more opportunities to attend international events as well. So international conferences are more available, accessible, short courses from universities as well, especially in Australia. I find there's been a lot more in the last year or so. So there are other options as well for professional development if that's what they're looking for. And I just wanted to add that the NAATI news that we send every month also includes links to PD events in Australia. So if you are not subscribing to it, make sure you do, because there might be other avenues for you there.
Do you have to be a practitioner to get the NAATI newsletter?
Yeah, I think so. It's for our NAATI practitioners.
Because we might have interpreter candidates, students that might want to also maybe subscribe. Is that a possibility, or is it just for practitioners only?
It's just for practitioners, as far as I know. Yeah.
All right, very good. Look, I also just want to say a couple of things about this. I want to say kudos to this interpreter. Well done. Like you said, Aurelie and Michael, you'd appreciate too. Subject matter is very, very important with interpreting.
Absolutely.
You can have amazing interpreting skills. If you don't know the subject matter, you're going to probably not have the best interpreting experience and give the best interpreting service for the clients as well. I always say to my students, it's like an iceberg. The part where it's visible is the interpreting skills. Okay, but the parts where it's not visible is the subject matter.
Absolutely.
The more you know about the subject matter, the better, and I think the easier the interpreting is going to be. You're going to have anticipation skills that are going to come in. Your long-term memory is going to kick in. You're going to be less reliant on your short-term memory and note-taking and so on, which is going to reduce the stress and the cognitive load that it's going to have on your interpreting during that session. So I think what you're doing here is amazing. Get out there and learn as much as you can about social services, about law, about health. There's heaps of, and I think there's heaps of like either very cheap or free PD sessions, even on YouTube. I went onto the New South Wales Legal Aid YouTube channel and they've got a lot of webinars there for interpreters, but also just in general, informing people about, for example, what's family violence, what to do in civil tribunals, civil and administrative tribunals, all these things, they're for the general public, but I think as interpreters, we can learn a lot with regards to subject matter. So yes, I think keep going. The more we know about the topic, the better and easier I think our interpreting is going to be.
Yeah, and I think to tie that in almost to the question about the Greg PD before, the recertification catalogue is not meant to be onerous, and it's meant to allow for practitioners to choose the PD that is right for them and their work practice. So we haven't got a prescriptive list of items, you must do one thing of legal and one thing of health. It's open. There's the opportunity to submit under another category if the one that you want to submit under doesn't exist. So it's really about the PD that suits the practitioner and what business they're conducting, rather than us saying what it should be.
And for each category, you've always got the one at the end where you can nominate.
Yeah,
I love it. Like literally, there is no end to the PD that you can do. Whoever came up with that point 11 or point 12 at the end, it's like if the PD you did doesn't fit into any of these, please nominate it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that as well. So I like the figure. Yes, it's not onerous. It makes it easy, but it's also very open.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. This one, if you're a practicing interpreter, I guess we might relate to this next question. And I think, if anyone else has an answer to this, feel free to email us, drop us a line, so that we can get back to this interpreter as well. This is probably a stupid question for NAATI, but worth the shot. No such thing, right? So keep asking. Last year, from March until December, I suffered from non-stop chronic ear infections. I was specifically told not to wear any headphones from my ENT specialist. But because of COVID-19 and lockdowns, more and more interpreters are required to interpret remotely while wearing headphones. Some make it compulsory and others recommend headphones for jobs. For someone like me, if I do wear any headphones, I will develop ear infections. So what does a practitioner do? Any tips or suggestions? Do I choose my health or suffer for a job? We have heard of headphone injuries to practitioners, but I can't be the only one in this situation. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm happy to comment on that. It is a very specific question, so I don't necessarily have a specific answer to it, but I was thinking that perhaps it would be a good idea to get in touch with OSIT. They might have some advice as to best practice, but also in terms of what we have in the Code of Ethics on the Principle 7, which is about maintaining professional relationships. There is some information around ensuring having the best work conditions for interpreters, and that is around use of equipment and just working conditions in general. So I thought there may be something there to look at and to see perhaps in this situation that might be applicable. I would think that it's something to discuss with the client before an assignment, and ensuring that the job can be done in the best conditions. That could be about not wearing headphones or those kind of things because of a particular health condition. So I'd looked at the Code of Ethics and perhaps reach out to OSIT for additional advice on what can be done, because there might be other people who have similar situations.
Very good. Now, I also did a little bit of research on this, and I do provide interpreting services, and I do a lot of video interpreting, and I've since COVID have invested in a good set of headphones. I think we need to differentiate here, like in-ear headphones and over-ear headphones. I had a look at this, and especially the in-ear earbuds, maybe we could call them. They're not very much recommended for people with ear infections. You've got to keep your ear as dry as possible, and as much air in there as possible. So, I do see a lot of interpreters, and I've done it myself as well, just use the good old telephone headset or the earbuds that come with, it's an easy solution. But it's not necessarily healthy, especially if you've got ear infection. So maybe, have a look at like some over-ear headphones. Again, I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to recommend which one, but that might be something to consider. Have a look at the podcast episode that I did about remote simultaneous interpreting as well there with a very experienced interpreter, Gemma, and she made some recommendations about some headphones. So have a look in that episode. And I think there was some recommendations given by AIC as well on the types of headphones that can be used, because we have heard about, audio shocks with remote simultaneous interpreting and video remote interpreting. So this has been an issue over the last couple of years, and it's a work health and safety issue. So I definitely sympathize with the interpreter. But I think, there could be ways to mitigate the situation. Yes, definitely contact AUSIT. Have a look around to see what kind of headsets are recommended. Again, I think the ones that I've seen are mostly the over-ear ones. So anything that's in-ear, probably good to stay away from, and maybe get in touch with the ENT specialist again to go back with a few options and say, which one's good, which one's bad for me, and so on, I think. But, it does seem like remote interpreting is here to stay, so might be best to mitigate that situation.
Just picking up on one of those things you said there, Fatih, it is a work health safety issue as well. And not dissimilar to the dodgy practice question, there are laws in states requiring workplaces to be safe. And we're not medical specialists here, but potentially if the employer is saying you must wear headphones and in-ear, the viable alternative is, well, the doctor said I can wear over-ear, and then that's a reasonable adjustment in that circumstance and protected under work health safety laws in the state or territory that they're operating in. So there's a more overarching thing about a safe workplace there that I think is worth investigating. But with the detail given, obviously we can't give specific advice.
Definitely. Thank you for that. All right, moving on. I attended a webinar. In the webinar, they used an example of a minor mistake an interpreter made, which caused major ramifications. In this case, the visa wasn't granted, and the government thought the applicant was not being truthful. During the interview, the English speaker asked, "Did you have any previous relationships?" The interpreter interpreted the question as, "Did you have any previous marriages?" The loudspeaker answered, "No." Maybe NAATI, AUSIT, or All Graduates, or anyone else could do a reminder in a newsletter or some training about potential ramifications that could happen if a practitioner makes a small error. It may mean the difference between getting a visa and not, like in this example. Thanks. What are your thoughts on this?
I think this is a really interesting question, and sort of links to some of the questions we've had in the past. So often we'll be judged, I guess, as a NAATI test of a single bad error failing a candidate.
It's that one major error that will cause you to fail the entire test.
Yeah. But this is the reason the rubrics are written the way they are, I guess, because it can have real-world consequence with serious ramifications for the people involved. So we've got plans over the coming sort of 12 to 18 months to start. I think NAATI as an organisation has done a reasonable job of connecting with education institutions and language service providers and governments over the last few years. But the next phase for us is really pushing out into the consumer area and explaining why certified is important and the rationale behind that. And I think, although that doesn't directly answer this question, I think that the broader public awareness comes into this, which is certified is important, professionals are important in this space, and these are the reasons why, and sort of really trying to lift everyone's understanding of not just the NAATI news to existing practitioners in what a bad mistake can be, but lifting society's knowledge of why this is important. And, there's countless examples over the last 18 months with COVID of individual words meaning very poor health outcomes for Lote-speaking communities around the country and the world. And I think, again, for us, it's important, and our tests are written that way, and it can sometimes feel harsh when critical information, one word, what appears to be one word, can fail a test, but that's the rationale behind it.
Yeah, I can definitely see that now, because I've been teaching it and preparing people for the NAATI exam for a while, and it's always been like, you can be amazing at everything and do everything perfectly fine. It's just one major error, you will fail the test. And everyone's like, oh, but why? Why one major error? And I said, well, one major error can cause a misdiagnosis. One major error can be the difference between freedom and jail time. One major error can be the difference between a visa and being deported. So that's why. And I've also come to appreciate, because when I first saw the rubrics and when I first saw the test, I was like, oh my God, really? Like one error and then that's it? But yes, it does kind of interpret and translate into real life, doesn't it?
It really does. And I would also say, though, we understand its test conditions. That's why we have 3 tasks. So on balance, we can assess someone's skill and offer the supplementary tests where only one of the 3 tasks were unsuccessful. So one major error would not completely rule you out, and means you just have to go back and do that one task again. So
clarify that, Michael, for those that don't really know that part of the test. So you've got 3 tasks. Just because you failed one of them doesn't mean you failed the entire thing. You've got a chance to get back in there.
Yeah, you'll be offered the opportunity of a supplementary test to just do that one task again. So if you've passed 2 out of 3, you'll be offered a supplementary test to do that one of 3 tasks again, to collect the set of tasks to get the credential.
I think that's very good. Do they have to pay for that test again?
There is a cost.
But it's I guess less than the original.
Yes, correct.
Yep. All right, very good. Good to know. All right, let's move on. Look, coming towards the end of our questions, and I wanted to leave this one, the best one, for the last, I guess. I actually have heard about this as well. Like I've got anecdotal experience about this, and we have had conversations about this. And when I saw this question pop up, I was like, "Yep, this one's definitely worth asking," because for I guess NAATI and people who are in the industry, maybe you don't think it matters much, or you don't see it becoming a problem. But in the real life, when it's over, time and time hear this happening, you stop and think, oh, I wonder. So here's the question. I'd like to raise the issue of the certification expiry date appearing on the translator's stamp. I wonder if you have heard concerns about this from other colleagues. People are mistakenly believing that the valid to date appearing on the stamp is the expiry date of the translation itself. I think it needs to be removed or clarified somehow on the stamp. The expiry date appearing on our certified translations is creating a lot of confusion. What are your thoughts on this? So we know that for certified translators, when they get certified, they get a free stamp from NAATI that they can stamp their translations with. And before, there was no such date. And I think recently in the last 3 years with the stamp turning from a round stamp into a rectangular stamp, it says, and I think it's about the expiry of the certification date of the translator, and people are thinking that it's like the use by date of the translation. So clearly there is some clarification that's needed, or there is some some people are getting confused around that. What are your thoughts on that? I know you're a certified translator yourself, Aurelie.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not sure actually if the former stamp, the round stamp, didn't have the dates. To tend to recall that it had
I
it
could
as
be
well.
wrong about that.
Yeah, look, it's a known issue. Definitely, like it's not the first time that this kind of feedback comes to us. So we are looking into improving this in the future. And I know Michael's been looking into that more specifically, and he can probably add some comments. We're looking at changing the stamps in the future and looking at electronic stamp options. So that's something that would definitely, I think, solve that problem where we could include some information about the dates not being the expiry date of the translation. So that's something that is working towards too. And yeah, I don't know when we're planning to have this. Maybe Michael, you can add a little bit on that. Yeah.
So the first thing I'll add is to side with Aurelie here, definitely known issue. There is information on our website with a downloadable PDF to explain to consumers that it is not an expiry of the translation and the translation remains valid for life. So that information is on our website and downloadable, so you can pass it on. The idea behind the digital stamp, so this is an exclusive for All Grads podcast listeners. We have been developing it. We've had feedback from practitioners, multiple things. One is a physical stamp doesn't necessarily relate to how practice is done at the moment. So emails go back and forth with PDF documents, and then to have to print it out, stamp it, scan it, and email it back doesn't make a lot of sense. So we've been working on getting a digital stamp to help that. The current concept, so again, this is exclusive but not locked in. We should have something in the next 6 months to at least do a limited.
That's great.
If not sooner. The concept will be that every digital stamp will have like a QR code on it, practitioner name, and sort of expiry date and the language as it is now. But the QR code will allow people to scan it, and it will link directly to our verified practitioner database, so people can check currency instantaneously. But we'll also be able to put the information about the stamp not reflecting the validity of the translation into that message that pops up when someone scans the QR. So it'll be better for practitioners because they'll be able to easily insert it onto digital copies, but it'll also be better for consumers to be able to, at any time, quickly check that the practitioner is who they say they are and that they were certified at time of translation.
That sounds great. And you heard it for the first time at the Ask NAATI Conversations All Graduates podcast. Well, thank you very much, Michael. You said it, not me. That's amazing news because, yes, that the date on the stamp can be confusing. Again, it's going back to, I guess, informing the end users of interpreting and translating services. We all know what's going on, but then, we work with so many other organizations and individuals out there that don't really know what these things mean. So, in a way, I guess education is key as well. And I know that you just said that NAATI is working on that. I have to just say kudos because having a printer, having a scanner, it's a little bit old school these days, isn't it? Yes, we all have it. I mean, I'm dying for the day that I don't need printers and scanners anymore. And I do have a scanner still from like 15 years ago that barely works. And I only use it for this purpose, like stamping, scanning, printing, stamping, scanning, emailing back. It just,
it takes time.
It takes me longer to do that than translate a birth certificate.
I support that. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, very good. Well, keep an eye out, practitioners. So 6 months or so, you're saying, and that's not too far away.
Yeah. So the thing will take the time. So we have the technical ability to do it quite quickly. The thing that will take the time is ensuring that agencies that currently accept that stamp are okay with that format. So Department of Home Affairs, etc. We've got to do an education and engagement campaign with them to go, this is what we're proposing, this is how it looks, this is what the security is behind it. And once we've got that agreement, that'll be the thing that prevents a quick rollout, I guess, which is just ensuring that translators aren't getting their work knocked back because we haven't done enough consultation prior.
Very important. I think you need to, I guess, go to all the consulates and embassies out there as well, because I mean, in my experience, especially, it's loath going back into English, and it's a lot of translations required for immigration purposes or visa purposes, and it's usually going back to the embassy or the consulate. So I guess they have to be informed as well. And I'm sure you've thought about that as well. So.
But yeah, it's again, I hope that we have a solution really quick. So technically capable of doing it very, very soon. It's that piece that will take a little bit longer, but fingers crossed we can get something out quite quickly.
Now, look, I've got to say, in the last year or so, we've been doing these podcasts, and just a little bit over a year, I met you, Aurelie, and we did the recertification webinar. And I can see that you guys aren't joking around, very progressive. It's all about action. So I just want to say congratulations. And I think ever since meeting you, not in person yet, thanks to COVID, but, it feels like I've known you for a while now. I just want to say thank you for putting a face to NAATI, to making yourselves accessible to all the practitioners. And I think, having executive management like yourselves, and, I want to say thanks to Mark as well. He attended on a couple of occasions too. I think it matters a lot to the practitioners, to the LSPs, and just in general to the training institutions, just to see your faces to NAATI, and to make yourself accessible and open, and the transparency. So I want to say on behalf of everyone out there, a big thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you, Fatih. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks. It's our pleasure. Really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do it as well, giving us the platform to answer questions and comment on what's happening around NAATI and what our plans are for the future. So the platform's great, and we're happy to keep turning up as long as people are happy to keep asking questions of us.
Yes, definitely. So have a look at the website. So NAATI website, All Graduates website, as well as the Conversations Interpreting and Translating website. The form is always there, the question form. It's a Google form. Just click on it and ask away. No such thing as a stupid question. And I'm sure that we'll do the best that we can to, and it says there questions will be picked at random, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of pretty much almost asking every single question. And unless it's been
That's
like
right.
a question that was answered in a previous podcast episode, all questions are being asked. So there's nothing hidden here. So ask away. And thank you very much for being here today for the final episode of the Ask NAATI for 2021. But 2022 is not too far away, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again with a lot more questions from our practitioners out there. So thank you both very much, Aurelie and Michael, for today and for the past year, for being a part of the Ask NAATI podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.